Oh, hey! I'm glad you're here. I'd like to open this episode with a poem by the deeply antisocial English poet Philip Larkin. The piece is This Be the Verse. They fuck you up, your mum and dad. They may not mean to, but they do. They fill you with the faults they had, and add some extra, just for you. But they were fucked up in their turn by fools in old-style hats and coats, who half the time were soppy stern and half at one another's throats. Man hands on misery to man, it deepens like a coastal shelf. So get out as early as you can, and don't have any kids yourself. Bleak? Yes. About cyborgs? Not exactly. Why am I talking about this? Because this episode is about cyborgs, and I was thinking, is Frankenstein the first cyborg? Now hear me out. I know he wasn't cybernetic, but he was various parts strung together and set alive by electricity. Perhaps the first analog cyborg? Are we weird enough yet? Frankenstein, cyborgs, poems? Okay, well, cyborgs are fascinating to me because we are the faulty part of the equation. Try as we might to blame the computer program telling us to commit horrible offenses, we are the OG of horrible offenses. Now, I've been a fan of this subgenre since I was a kid. I mean, when Peter Weller as RoboCop said, "Dead or alive, you're coming with me," it was the coolest thing. I didn't know anything could be that cool. It just broke my brain in a way, and I've loved these movies and the subgenre ever since. And I knew when I met a certain kindred heart that we would have to one day do an episode on the subject, and that time is now, and we all benefit as a result. Once again, please rate and review any podcast you enjoy. It really makes a difference, but that's enough of that. Let's get right to it. The film is I Love Maria. The guest is Ryan from New World Pictures Podcast, and this is VH Us. Hello and welcome to VHS. We're the only podcast that is half human, and I'll leave to your imagination which half that is. I'm your cybernetic host, Dirk Marshall, and I'm joined by my robo-brother from another bionic mother. It's Ryan Gowland. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for welcoming me. Welcome all. I am happy to be here, as I have been programmed to say.
Very natural. You're definitely going to pass as a human. Ryan, you were the co-host with Mark and Erica over at New World Pictures Podcast, just in case someone found this episode for the first one to listen to of VHS. Please break down what New World Pictures Podcast is.
Well, New World Pictures Podcast is a podcast wherein people talk about movies.
Okay, got it.
And those movies are specifically made by a company called New World Pictures, which was started in 1970 by Roger Corman until he sold it in the early 80s. To a different group of people who then sold it at the end of the 80s to a different very rich person. Then they continued on television until the mid-90s, at which point they were bought by an even richer person.
Okay.
And we talk only about the movies and television shows released by this company, now defunct, called New World Pictures.
And some that are nearly.
And some that are nearly, because they almost made so many movies as well. So we talk about those, and we also talk to some of the people that made these movies as well. So we talk about a variety of things, but it's all centered around New World Pictures.
Yeah, I love it. Obviously, I love New World. I love Empire. We have a lot of very similar, passionate feelings for these
for sure
film companies, and I love hearing you talk about the movies. Obviously, those formats for podcasts very popular, but the interviews, the people that you all get to speak to that worked on and around these movies, even for people that haven't seen these movies, they're always fascinating conversations because it's like their actual experiences in this field in a very specific time, you know, like now how movies are made is very different, and the way that these people were all putting movies together, and it's very interesting to hear their experiences and hear how you all celebrate them and their work in those.
Well, yeah,
films.
Thank you. It's been fascinating to do it, and I have to say a lot of those great interviews, as you have called them, I would have to say a lot of it has to do with the people that we get, and what's been interesting is how willing they are to go back and talk about that stage of their careers. To me, a big feather in our cap was getting our Torment reunion. Torment is a movie that was made independently and then purchased by New World Pictures and released in the mid-'80s. It's a thriller. It was made in San Francisco for very little money. we had three guys that were editors on this, including Scott Alexander, the screenwriter, and Earl Grafari and Scott Penny, both of whom have had very long careers, like Scott Alexander. They have been, and we were thrilled to have all three of them. But having them come in and just talk about the old days and talk about making this movie was such a privilege for us. We definitely had a lot of questions, but we kind of sat back and let them direct it. It was such a cool experience. I'm hoping we're going to do something like that again, because people were just, it was at the beginning of their career. It was the absolute beginning of all their careers. And for them to talk about it and talk about making this movie, it's a little movie that not a lot of people know, but people should watch it. It's a good movie. But it was such a privilege for us, and we had so much fun. And thinking about our podcast, sometimes I go, we made that happen just of our little podcast. It's crazy that exists because we got this interest in New World Pictures and decided to make a podcast about it. It's not us, it's them, but it's like amazing that it's documented. Yeah. We're very honored that we get to do that.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Well, we're continuing season 13 of Chaos with this cyborg-themed episode. We will first discuss I Love Maria, aka RoboForce, and then our friendship will end as Ryan and I will conduct a competitive cyborg deathmatch draft where we will...
It's over.
Yep, we'll take turns selecting cyborgs for our own teams from films, and they'll battle to the death. And the winner will be judged by the listener. So on the release of this episode, I'll post on social media, and you can all give us your feedback. You can even tell us your own squadron of cyborgs, but they can't be any of the 8 that we've selected for this battle. There you go. You can even email me directly if you have my email. But first, let's talk about I Love Maria, a.k.a. RoboForce from Hong Kong in the year 1988. Ryan, initial thoughts?
Wow. Well, you know, you would approach me about this movie, and if you approach me about a movie or like, have you seen this? Or if it's a movie that you talk about on your podcast that I haven't seen, I basically hunt it down and I find it and I buy it.
I appreciate that.
I just recently watched Livewire.
Yes.
Which I had seen, but I did not recall in any way.
Isn't that wild?
It's so wild and so much fun. Yes. And I was like, why didn't I remember this?
Yeah.
I couldn't get over, and I need to watch it again. I couldn't get over the American accent that Pierce Brosnan doing because this was at a stage in his career where he was like, I could do accents. And as soon as he did Livewire, it was like, you don't need to. Okay. Just talking however you want.
So angry.
It doesn't matter. Because he is so concentrated on that accent, he doesn't recognize all the wildness around him.
Yeah.
But I know you approached me about this particular movie because I am real into Lady Cyborg movies.
Correct.
I love Lady Cyborg movies. It's a little like side,
Borg.
You know, Borg. I was gonna say a little side subgenre that I like, but you also Cyborg. And I had not seen this one, so I was thrilled. I had to go find it. I spent a lot of money on a German import Blu-ray.
Yeah, I did on mine too.
But I don't regret it at all, because what it reminded me of a little bit, and this is probably just the fact that it's both from Hong Kong, but it kind of reminded me a little bit of Robotrix or Robotrix, however you want to say it. However, this is one that you could actually watch with the whole family.
Yep. Which you can't with Robotrix.
Nope.
Please don't.
You cannot do that with a Category 3 movie at all. Do not do that. I do not recommend. So this was one that kind of surprisingly was a comedy. I've seen a lot of Hong Kong movies, so you pick up on whether it's a comedy or not very quickly.
Yes.
And this movie wastes no time telling you, this is funny.
Yeah.
And by that, I am being slightly condescending, just because I think sometimes Hong Kong movies are a little like over the top. Their comedy's a little broad and a little bit over the top. And so I'm like, okay, I feel sometimes like, I get it, Hong Kong, you're making a comedy, chill out. But this one is really fun. Yeah. I really like it. And you can show everyone. It's got a great action scene at the end. It's got some good action in the middle. Great cast. And you can actually watch that. Like, I own also Robotrix. And I've watched it, and I'm like, I can't watch this.
Yeah.
Unless it's just me.
Yes.
Because if I watch it with my wife, who is by no means a prude, but it would be like, why do we own this?
Yeah. Yeah, and my wife would do the same thing. Yeah.
It's like a Lady Cyborg movie, and she's like, yeah, we don't need to have this in the house.
Yeah.
And we have children here. And I'm like,
But it's a great Blu-ray. Look at the
It
packaging.
is. It's a
But
terrific
not
Blu-ray
close.
from 88 Films. They did an amazing job. I got that special edition version of
Oh,
it, and
me too.
it's terrific.
I need the booklet and a poster, please.
Yes, and cards.
Yes.
I need postcards. I need all of this paraphernalia, which I cannot display.
No, nah, not for anybody.
I mean, I could display, but then we have children who are going to be like, "What is this movie, Dad?" Uh,
Just
how can
something Dad has to own and watch alone.
Our 9-year-old already asked me one day, "Why do we own all these movies, Dad?"
I
like,
lucked out, and
ah,
we had a power outage, and so my kid couldn't stream anything. And she's like, I can't watch any of my shows. And I opened up the cabinet of media that I had curated for her upstairs, and she was like, what is all this? And I'm like, we could watch all of this anytime. And so she picked the Real Ghostbusters cartoon series, and that's what we watched during the internet outage. And it was fantastic. And now when she has friends come over and they want to watch something in the playroom that doesn't have the internet, and so they go to the cabinet and the kids like look and hold the movies and turn them over and like talk about like it's so exciting for me because I'm like, yes, that's the thing. Don't do that downstairs. That's my stuff. So you can't see a lot of it. So.
Right. That's why we're gonna we have stuff here in the bedroom that is just like that's gonna be this is gonna be the horror dad section area, and then now where they are, it'll be the movies they can watch.
Exactly. Yeah.
I've done something similar because I've started eliminating streaming services, especially during the strike. I've just decided, okay, we're going to get rid of. We have too many anyway. We can't possibly enjoy all of them. It's just impossible. And we watch tons of stuff, so it's not like we aren't trying, but we can't. So I'm starting to eliminate stuff. And just tonight, I started looking through things. Put together, my daughter's going through a big anime phase, so I put together a bunch of anime movies I owned, and she was like, "What's the Spirited Away?" And I was like,
huge.
"Put it in."
Yeah.
And she watched it. They couldn't finish it, but they because of bedtime. But they were like, they were both completely into it. I'm like, see, we have all this cool stuff that you're just not paying any attention to because you can turn on streaming services and just watch whatever. And I get it. But that's why I'm like eliminating that, so they're forced to look at the shelves.
There you go. Perfect.
Now then they'll get it. Then they'll get it, and I'll have my revenge.
What were we talking about? Oh yeah, the film.
The film.
I Love Maria.
That's my thoughts.
Yes.
Perfectly surmised. Just perfect. Just shortened, tiny version.
None of it. The director. David Chung did Royal Warriors, Dynamite Fighters, and Web of Deception. What do you got? Royal Warriors.
Yeah, I have it right here. I just got it.
Nice.
From Eureka.
Yeah. Yep.
I love Eureka.
Oh, yeah. Eureka's fantastic.
I love that label.
So he's the director here. He was also the cinematographer on Once Upon a Time in China and Zodiac Killers, which are both bangers. Also credited is Choi Hark.
I think that's how it said.
Perfect. Zoo Warriors of Magic Mountain, Twin Dragon, Knockoff, Black Mask 2, Detective D and the Phantom Flame. I mean, he's directed a ton of stuff, as well as produced even more, so it's pretty amazing. And also co-wrote this film with Kai Chi-yoon, who did Legend of Drunken Master, Once Upon a Time in China, She Shoots Straight.
There you go.
Super fun. And The Seventh Curse, which I'm a big fan of.
Love that one. Yes.
Yeah, so great writer. It stars Choi Hark as Whiskey. And he was also in Yes, Madam. Some people might remember that. Sally Ye, who plays Maria, was also in The Killer, which we've all seen and love.
Right over here.
John Sham as Curly, who was also in Yes, Madam and Double Impact, which is awesome.
I watched the dubbed version, and I watched it with the subtitles on, too, because it's boiling hot in Southern California, so I have to watch it with tons of fans going, so I have the volume, but I have subtitles on just in case. And he says Curly in the subtitles, but says Looney in the dub.
Interesting. I don't have the dub. I only have the English subtitles, so that is...
I just threw on the English subtitles, and also two different versions. Do you have two different versions?
No, I only have one.
I have a 99-minute version, which is what I watched, not the 88. And this one has extra scenes, and those extra scenes were only in Cantonese or Mandarin.
Okay.
But the rest of it was all dubbed. What I imagine was the 88-minute version.
Interesting.
So, yeah.
And we also have Chin Ying Lam. He plays
You
B12.
spend tons of money on an import. These are the bonuses you get.
Mine's an import too, but I guess I should have went to Germany.
They're very efficient there.
Yeah.
They want to make sure that they have everything that you need.
All right. Well, I just found a German Blu-ray import of one of the movies we may talk about later, so I hope I get so much bonus stuff on there. Because you can
Well,
watch.
you got the postcard, so you win. I think.
I do. I'll mail it to you. For Chen Ying Lam plays B12, aka the Master. He was also in Mr. Vampire, Way of the Dragon, and Vampire Expert. And then Tony Leung, Infernal Affairs, In the Mood for Love, Tokyo Raiders. I mean, the list goes on and on.
Terrific.
Pretty much, if you want to know about Hong Kong movies in the 80s, you can look up the people in this film and find a plethora of awesome things to check out. So that's what I highly recommend anyone does once you track down this movie, which will probably be made available now that we've discussed it.
Right.
That tends to be what happens.
Suddenly it'll be streaming.
It'll be streaming for $2.99, and
and we both spent a lot of money importing Blu-rays.
Damn it. A little bit of trivia. The sound effects used for Pioneer 1 in the movie The Footsteps are the same as the power loader in Aliens from 1986.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Pioneer 1 also has the same growl at one point as Ed 209 from RoboCop, which was a year prior to this. So let's press play on I Love Maria, aka RoboForce. Which one do you have? Do you have I Love Maria or RoboForce?
Oddly enough, the cover says RoboForce.
Okay.
But when I watched whatever version I watched, the original Fossing.
Yeah.
When I watched that version, it said I Love Maria as a title card.
Okay.
So, I mean, it says RoboForce on it, but, you know, it said I Love Maria. So
Perfect.
I think neither title is great.
You're right.
To be fair.
Fair.
Neither title is really terrific. I get why it's called I Love Maria more than it's called RoboForce.
Yeah, but Robo Maria would have worked.
Robo Maria would have been great. That
Yeah.
would have been, yeah. Let's take both and mix them together. That
Okay.
makes a lot more sense.
Like a cyborg situation. First thing I wanted to say was the theme song rules. I love the song that starts
100%.
the movie. I was just
100%.
like, I'm in already for this.
Oh.
I mean, if
Plus, the Pioneer 1 is made out of, like, foam.
Yeah.
I was like, this is terrific.
Yeah.
No one did this.
Yeah.
No one thought to do this.
So I had heard about I Love Maria forever, I feel like. And I looked up images, and you see her in the sort of Metropolis metal suit kind of thing, which is the face showing. And so I was like, I've got to see this thing. And I eventually just got so fed up that I ordered it from Hong Kong. And and so I put it in, and it started, and I immediately thought of you because I was like, well, I mean, Ryan loves Lady Cyborg movies, and
I'm so glad you did.
this is a Lady Cyborg movie. And then I just couldn't believe how fun all of the effects and things that they put on screen. I was like, every single thing, I was like, this is a very creative, fun choice. This is a very creative, I've never seen that before. This is, and like, just the effects. I mean, I could see how the comedy might not work for some people, but I can roll with that. I have no issues with the wacky comedy. Some of it I think is very creative and funny too. But the instant the movie starts, I was like, okay, so it's kind of serious. No, not at all. You know, just like initially where you see cops have blocked off part of town and a photojournalist approaches, and then a giant claw like smashes somebody's face and there's blood, and I was like, oh, okay, there's going to be blood in the movie. I wasn't prepared for that. And then there's a military zone, and we hear a sound, and the photojournalist looks up, and we see Pioneer 1, which is a giant robot. And by giant, I don't mean like the size of a building. I mean, it's like, how would you describe Pioneer 1?
He's probably supposedly like 8 or 9 feet or something like that.
Yeah.
He's a big, brown, tiny-headed robot. Got a tiny head, big shoulders.
Big shoulders, yeah.
He's big and broad. He's always shot from down below, so they clearly are like, this guy's huge.
Mm-hmm.
He's probably maybe 6 foot tall on set, but it doesn't matter. But like I said, made out of foam.
Yeah.
Painted brown.
Mm-hmm.
You don't see that in a lot of robots.
No.
I was instantly like, this is fantastic.
Yeah.
Because I've never seen robots look like this. It's like a RoboCop knockoff, but if you decided, let's not make all this stuff look like metal, let's make it out of foam and just paint it brown, because who gives a shit?
Yeah. No,
I mean,
exactly.
It all comes apart anyway, so who cares?
Yeah.
And you're right, I don't care.
No, not at all. The military then opened fire on it. They surround it with jeeps, and it just bashes the shit out of all the jeeps. I was just like, yes. And then it shows it's pulling a vault. It's not only fighting everything. It's pulling an entire vault, which I think happens in one of the Fast and the Furious movies. This is
Yeah,
probably
Fast Five.
where they got
Yeah,
the idea,
yeah,
probably.
exactly.
If you look
From this
closely, the
one,
license plate says Pioneer 1 just on
right?
there.
They're like, let's do that, but let's tear it through the city of Rio de Janeiro. Nobody will ever know that we took it from I Love Maria.
Yeah. It speaks and says its name is Pioneer 1 from the Hero Gang, and then it just rockets into the sky. And I was like, I
Yep.
almost don't need anything else to happen in this movie, and it's already 5 stars for
And
me.
then Tony Leung is like, I've got it. What a story I've got.
Yeah, it's so bizarre how he's stitched through this movie, but we'll get to that.
It's one of those tropes too, where like the guy with glasses loses his glasses and his camera, and he's like, "Oh no, my glasses!" And you're like, "Well, this stuff's screwed."
Yeah.
Nope.
No, I found him.
Neither. No. And the robot's stepping.
Yes.
It doesn't step on either of the stuff.
No.
He gets everything. His glasses, the camera, everything's fine.
Yeah. There's a part where he falls in the water and comes out with the glasses in his mouth. And I was just like, okay, this is all right.
How does that happen? How does that work?
It's so bizarre.
What that defies physics.
We next meet Maria, who asks why Pioneer 1 didn't kill all the police officers as well, and they tell her, well,
This is not the nice Maria at all.
They say it malfunctioned. And
I
so...
don't love this Maria, I can tell you, Dirk.
I don't love her either. She demands that it's fixed. One scientist tries to run. Somebody shoots him in the back with a machine gun around 75 times, but she pulls a pistol out and shoots him in the back of the head. Oh, somebody saw RoboCop.
I know, I love it. This is such a RoboCop riff, 100%.
Yeah. We next see the.
But I don't know where they get the female cyborg stuff too. That's the thing that I think I was thinking a lot. Like, where does that come in? I mean, and it's not a police officer,
right?
RoboCop.
No.
So clearly they were. I don't know.
Yeah.
So. I was thinking of a lot of things when I was watching this because it really threw me, but I loved it. But I was like, where is all this coming from in 1988?
Yeah. Next, we see the photojournalist who drops his camera again, and then he meets Curly, who has a tracking button.
Yeah.
And he designs secret weapons. We next get a ballistics test where they make Curly wear the vest and shoot him with a gun that's supposed to kill him.
And the only way he survives is he puts that metal plate underneath himself. And they're like, look, I'm okay because I did this. Because that's what the robots have.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, lucky you thought of that. What were they going to... Did they not have that prepared? Was it something he did special?
It's so wild because the plate is like severely dented, which means like those bullets would have impacted his bones. Like it's just...
Oh, he would have been blown apart if he had not had that thing underneath the shirt.
Oh...
He comes up with secret plans, which are not secret because he will tell anyone in a bar what his plans are and what he's trying to do. So they're not at all secret.
Right. Yeah. He's not good at
Probably
surprises.
a big reason why his boss takes his plans and decides to just throw them in the trash and get rid of them.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to talk about this stuff to anybody that buys him a drink in a bar. So, or even just drinks near him in a bar.
Yeah.
It's going to take nothing for him to reveal all the secret things he's working on. So let's just throw this stuff in the trash.
Yeah, it's a real bummer for him. His boss disrespects him so much. We next see a new robot get lowered down in the Hero Gang laboratory, and I called it Maria 1, but I guess they call it Pioneer 2 when it's the silver one without the face. Is that correct? Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which is weird that they have two. Because they have Maria just looking normal.
Yeah.
So why they then need to like get rid of her hair and just put like cellophane around her head?
It's like bubble wrap at one point. Yeah.
It looks a little bit like they just took aluminum foil and just like wrapped her head in it, and we're like, let's call it a day. Put a little bit of silver, dishes on her ears, and we're good.
They didn't bring the pictures of what the costume was like, and they're like, I think this was it. I think this is what we were doing. And then they watch the footage, and they're like, oh, damn it.
And most of the movie, she's a Maria with regular hair and just looks like herself, probably to cut down on production costs.
Mm-hmm.
But also, Curly, they had to cast a guy in particular who just looked crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, again, this is sort of that broad comedy part of Hong Kong movies where they're like, this guy just looks crazy. Look at this guy.
Look how wacky this guy is.
His hair is just all over the place. He's just wild. I mean, this guy's a nut. No one could look at this guy and not laugh.
Yeah. Curly.
So he is great. He is great in the movie.
No, he's wonderful. Yeah. And they work with him a lot in a lot of these same pictures this team does. But So Curly created a supersonic gun. His boss says he's going to burn it, as you said. He gets bummed, so he goes to a bar and sits next to a drunk man who just says the word whiskey, that they're teasing. A big fight breaks out. They get beat up. Eventually, he gets his supersonic pistol back and he shoots up the bar, and they escape with the photojournalist who has popped up again, as he will
Yep.
do throughout the film, accomplishing very little.
Nope. So they're not working on a story.
No, he never writes anything, but he's very excited about changing batteries in his camera and taking pictures. Curly takes the drunk guy home to sober up, and they're tailed by somebody. And then Whiskey realizes, oh no, Curly's a cop. So he heads out, he's grabbed by two dudes, and now Curly's being spied on, and tells Maria that the drunk guy sold him out to the cops. But then she has a big fight with Pioneer 2 and the new robot, and her brother is also her lover?
Yes.
Okay.
I was very confused by that. Because they kiss passionately a couple times.
Once in a shower.
But she's...
And he's covered in mud. I'm pretty sure that's what was happening.
Yeah, several times.
Okay.
And especially, there's also at the end, and it's like, she always calls him brother, and I don't know, is that a term of affection?
I kept
is there
telling
like a
myself
thing
that.
I'm missing? Because I'm taking brother literally, and I at first was like, she called him brother, and I was like, oh, it's their brother. Okay, they're bad guys and they're siblings. And then and then they kiss, and you're like, well, are they brother sister, or am I taking brother too literally, and brother is not really...
I was thinking like brother in a cause. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, it's not familial, right? Or, I mean, maybe it is. If it is, this is one of the wilder movies. I mean, it already is one of the wilder movies. But...
I feel like that would push it more towards like Category 3 films if they were like, they're incest dudes, incest. And instead I think
now we're in Robotrix territory. Yeah. So I have to think it's just like, brother, we're all fighting for the same side. We're all... Yeah, I have to think it's that. But boy, that threw me.
Yeah, it's an unfortunate word choice.
When she says brother and then they kiss like that, you're like, wait, what?
I was like, this is like Star Wars. You know, that's what I thought with the...
So cue the Ferris Bueller quote. That's how it is in their family. You know, that's...
While they're hiding, Curly puts a tracker on Whiskey, and meanwhile, the photo guy watches it all. And next Pioneer 2, Maria climbs a building, which is one of the sequences where I was just like, this is gorgeous. Like, they clearly have her on a rope, and she scales a building as a cyborg. And, man, the reaching through the door handle and crushing the lock.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. I love Whiskey coming home and putting the key through the hole in his door and turning the key like he's unlocking it.
Yeah, that crawl up the wall was very akin to like the 1960s Batman kind of thing. And they make sounds like it's like I don't know. She's got Spider-Man kind of powers, and
she
just
produces
up the wall,
these like discs out of her hips that she uses like she holds them up and then she scales the wall using those like they're magnet suction cups or something. I don't know exactly.
I don't know. All I know is that I was like, yes, please, more of that. And then the clear like, we made a fake lock that you can just tear away that's like foam or something. There's a lot of foam in here, but it looked really good, and they put in some good sound effects, and they played it for comic effect.
Yeah, she's as Whiskey stumbles around in the sequence, she's extending her arms that are punching through the walls and blasting just rock and holes everywhere. And then her fingers are machine guns, and I was like, I'm serious. This is not that far into the film, and I'm happy with everything that's happened. Shut it down. This is perfect.
Yeah, we're good. The only weirdness that's happening at this point is the like alliance between Curly and Whiskey.
Yeah.
They're an unusual pair.
Yes, yeah.
And they go back and forth on being a pair, and the fact that they ever teamed up at all, especially when you see Tony Leung like in the early part of the movie, you think, well, this guy's going to be a big part of the film, and he's really the third wheel.
Yeah, completely.
And I want to say loony. It's Curly and
you could say loony.
And Whiskey that are the two main guys, and they have a very back and forth relationship, which again is very much like a lot of the comedy in Hong Kong movies.
Yeah, it's the odd couple situation. And they have a saying that actually links these three characters, and it's at certain points where they have a friendship before they fall out again, about how life is full of suffering, but you can get through it together. And they repeat this motif throughout the movie. That's really kind of an interesting way to to bring these characters, including kind of Maria, into the fold.
That's why it's a family movie. This is a
Yeah,
family. This is a
exactly.
family.
Oh,
I
my
admit,
daughter would
I
love
thought
this.
you were telling me you were having me watch this movie because I like Lady Cyborg movies, but really, this is just another family movie, a weird family movie that you have
Yeah.
asked me to watch.
Next time you cancel a screener, just say, kids, here's RoboForce. See you in 88
Right.
minutes.
There's no more Netflix, but there is I Love Maria.
YouTube's down, but here's I Love Maria. Yeah, next Curly shows up in the apartment, and we get the missile arm, where a huge missile, bigger than her arm, comes out
The
of her arm.
biggest missile. It's enormous.
It's so big.
It's like you're gonna blow up you too,
Yeah.
Pioneer 2.
Yeah.
Like, what are
Yeah.
you thinking?
Oh my god. And so then they go up on the roof, and she's like punching through the floor of the roof. Is that how you say that? And then she just shoots up through it, like, because she's got rocket feet. And man, I loved this whole sequence. They hide in a water tower. She flies into it, exploding the water tower, blasting water off the top of the building, which is a beautiful shot of the water like cascading, breaking through a wall. She crashes onto a fan, and she's just in a million pieces. They're hanging off of it in this really cool optical effect that they've like composed, because they're clearly not doing that, but it just like
Right.
I love these effects. I love this. The feeling I got from watching these effects was the feeling that I had watching, 80s films and things where they didn't have CG. It was like a mixture of practical and painting, and, it's just, we're currently showing my daughter all the fairy tale theater episodes. Do you remember that stuff? And it's such a mixture of nightmare-inducing imagery, but it's all paintings and animation and forced perspective, and it's just, she loves it. It's just very sort of, you can feel the imagination and the creation of it, and that's what I felt like in the sequence. I was just like, man, it just seems like special effects people having such a great time of being like, how are we going to pull this off? Paint some foam, do this thing. Like, it's just, I love this.
I mean, I don't know what the budget is on this one. I didn't look this up, but like this feels very much to me a lot like some of the movies we watch on New World Pictures, where they don't have a lot, but they accomplish a ton with not much money. Again, they're making a robot out of foam. Like, they don't have all the money to make everything exactly the way they want. There's times when Maria looks great. There's times when Maria looks pretty cheap, but they cut around it as quickly as they can to kind of like hide it a little bit. And you're right, this sequence is so cool and so good. They clearly had water. They had a lot of water at their disposal, but like, and some stuntman to hang off a building. But this is like real. You feel how real this movie is, and bursting through the floor. All that stuff is not super expensive stuff to do, but they're in some abandoned building.
Yeah.
By the way, did you have the scene in your version where the guys almost killed the dog?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Yeah, because they almost kill that dog, and it looks like they're going to eat it, and then they don't.
It's one of my favorite sequences.
Yeah, it's actually great. It's actually really well done.
It's really well. It got me the first time I was watching it. I was like, oh, we can't talk about this on the podcast. People will get so mad.
Because it looks like they're going to eat the dog, and then you even see them sitting by a fire, and you're thinking they've killed the dog, but they haven't, because they can't kill the dog because they love the dog.
Right.
And then the dog becomes part of the team.
Yes.
And I'm like, that's so awesome.
It's so good.
If I wasn't already in on this movie, like, this is a moment where you're like, okay, I'm totally in.
Yeah. So then they think he's a mole, so the military's after Curly, and Whiskey saves him. They steal like a future cop car. I don't even know what this is, but this movie keeps introducing new things that the cyborgs can do, and also just random cool stuff. Like, this movie's not holding back on anything. It's just like, we're gonna have a car in the sequence. Well, let's weld a bunch of weird stuff on it so it looks like a crazy futuristic race car that they don't know how to operate, but they just keep making up things to make it keep going. Like, I was just like, what is this?
And they introduce the stuff like, well, yeah, and then there's this crazy super cop car.
Yeah.
I mean, clearly. Like, they introduce it like you know it already, and you're like, I don't know this already.
No.
Where did this come from? They're like, you get it.
This was always here. And look, the photo guy is now writing on the back of it. I'm like, what is this happening?
Wait, how?
And for how long? Not long. Now he's off of it. I'm like, okay. Well, what was that
I love
about?
it. It does really keep... That's the thing about, Hong Kong movies, which I love, but there's certain Hong Kong movies that will have a great opening sequence, a great ending sequence.
I know exactly where
a
you're
decent fight in the middle, and a lot of filler.
A lot.
And it's like the mark of a good Hong Kong movie is how they handle the middle. If you can keep the second act interesting, have enough things happening. And this has, I mean, if the humor doesn't work for you, which it actually did for me, but if it doesn't work for you, I can understand that. But there's so much happening in the
Yes.
second act.
Yeah.
It doesn't stop like layering in things.
No, and it's like it's an action comedy, like the way that, the 80s would make all these, action buddy
Right,
comedy
right.
flicks. It's like that. So there's jokes written into the action. So there's always stuff happening. So even if the narrative script jokes don't work for you, there's great gags and things in there
Totally,
like we
totally.
we just got to the part here where they're hungry and they see a dog and they capture it and then they have
Okay.
they go back and forth talking about how they could kill it. And it's just fantastic on script level about like we could do this. Oh no, it makes the meat taste weird or it makes the guts bizarre or no one eats a drowned dog. They say at
Right,
one part
right,
it's bad luck.
right, right, right.
And then Whiskey goes to the store to get food. He comes back and doesn't see the dog, and he's like, "Did you eat the dog?" And he's like, "No, it's like right here." And he's like, "Okay, I thought you ate it." It's so funny. But then they find out that Curly kept the parts that Whiskey buried from the robot, and now he's brought their Maria back and taught
Mm-hmm.
it. You have to say "I love Curly" to give it a command, which has this
Yep.
great whole sequence where Whiskey refuses to say it, but the robot's trying to kill them. And this movie loves electrical shock jokes. They just can't get enough of it.
Oh, yeah, that's the part that where if you're like, I don't like the humor in this movie, I'm like, I get it. Because it's a lot of like, these guys keep getting shocked. By the way, this is the part where watching the English dub, which I get into a lot because I watch a lot of Italian movies. And so I always watch the English dub on those because they never recorded sound anyway. So I'm always like, what the hell? And it's the same thing kind of with Hong Kong movies. But oftentimes I will often watch the sort of Mandarin or
Hmm.
Cantonese version with subtitles rather than do an English dub. But I watched the dub on this, and when he says "I love Looney, I love Looney, I love Looney," there's something about it that doesn't work. When I
Right.
see Curly underneath, I'm like, no, Curly's the right name.
Curly, yeah.
Curly's the right name. Looney was not the right name.
It's so funny. We see her also being used to power a record player and cook an egg. And then she runs out of power, and I'm like, what the fuck did you think was gonna happen? She was lighting up a goose-shaped lamp. Like,
Yeah, yep.
okay, all
When she
right.
brought from his apartment, out of all the things he had to take with him,
Yeah, yeah.
ugh,
And not a lot of time has passed, and then Maria shows up with Pioneer 1, and we get this whole shootout sequence at this ocean front, like, fight. When Whiskey starts swinging on vines, and so Maria
oh
and
my
all the
god.
dudes
One
shoot,
of that's my favorite sequence.
it's
I love that sequence so much.
it's so rad. They shoot these ropes up into the trees, and they're swinging, but they're all shooting guns at the same
And
time.
it looks so dope
It's
when they're
so
flying
rad.
through. It looks
Yes.
so fucking
Yes.
good. I loved this so
I
much.
loved it too. Every time they cut back to it, I'm like, yes! It's
I'm
like,
like, do this more. I was like,
oh,
you could kept it going for another few minutes. Just the way they all flew together.
yes,
I know
yeah.
they're on wires and
Mm-hmm.
everything, but they looked fucking amazing.
Yeah.
I was like, keep this going. I love this.
Yeah, it's such a cool thing that's just like, this is not even a plot point or ever
Nope.
mentioned again.
Nope. They're just flying through on vines. I
So
was like,
cool.
this is amazing. I loved it.
Oh, then her rope breaks and Whiskey catches her, and you kind of get this whole thing that, like, okay, so now they fleshed it out a little bit more that, like, Whiskey used to be in this gang, and that's why they're after him, but he
Right,
has
right.
feelings for Maria, but they have this falling out, obviously, because they think he's, like, dealing their information or whatever. It's, um, it's just a detail. And then a flying robot tracks him, and then Pioneer's one's arms and feet rocket off, and then his
Hmm.
chest shoots out, and that's like making a ping sound trying to track down
Hmm.
Curly based on his heartbeat. So then the dog is on his lap, and so the dog scurries away. So then it thinks it's tracking him, but the whole time his arms are rockets and his feet are rockets, and they're shooting around this building. It is so rad, not explained. It
Nope.
happens, and we just go, I guess that's what Pioneer 1 does.
This is a thing that this guy does. And it looks like the circular thing and has like a little tail to it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's searching around for them. And it's, again, clearly on a wire,
Must be, yeah.
but it looks terrific.
Yeah.
And it's such a great, like, yes, they're making this thing out of foam, but when all that stuff happens, especially when it comes back in and then
Mhm.
closes the thing on top,
Yeah.
and you realize this extended chest had been built for a specific reason. It all just is like, you're like, well done, everybody
Yes.
building this thing.
Yeah.
This was super cool what you guys did with this thing, even though you made it out of foam, which is weird, but like it still looks great.
Yeah.
It's you know, it's again, I just love practical effects,
I
and
do too. And in the sequence, Curly's tied to a chair the whole time, just to make him even more helpless. And then he says, "Come save me," and she's like in a hole at this point, and she flies, and then we get this awesome
flies.
robot fight of her fighting Pioneer One. It's set to awesome rad tunes. She fires her mega rocket, but his chest like opens up and absorbs it. It like closes around it and just blows up inside the robot, causing no damage. He fires rockets, and they're covered in rubble. The master guy person arrives on a rocket and machine gun shooting smoke bomb motorcycle that
Yep.
like levels the entire team of bad guys. They all just are gone now. I was like, what is happening? And this is the master of the same bad dude. So now you have Maria, who doesn't like the master guy. The master guy likes whiskey, and Maria and brother are having some falling out because he wants to put her brain in one of the robots or something.
Mm-hmm.
And
Right.
so she's rightfully mad about that. I mean, I guess.
I mean, yeah, yeah, I can't falter for that.
So Maria goes over the cliffs, and then Pioneer One flies down, scoops her off the cliffs, and flies away. It's like, what? It's incredible. I mean, anyone listening to this, if you're like, this can't be really happening, this all happens very
It
quickly.
really does,
It's
and it feels very natural, to
yes,
be honest.
yep,
You know, I mean, you are kind of going, "Wow, I can't believe they did that," but it doesn't feel like far afield in the film itself.
yeah. Well, it just clips along so quickly.
Because the way they set it up, as you were talking about, the way they set this movie up, it's so wild to start,
Mm-hmm.
and it does feel there. It's not RoboCop. It's
No.
not some of the other. It's not Terminator. It's not some of the movies from the '80s. But it has elements where you're like, I feel grounded in some way because
Mhm.
of the other things that it's clearly inspired by, but isn't replicating
Yep.
exactly. So it has that element of it where you're like, wow, this is crazy, but I don't feel totally out of my chair going, what is happening? I don't have anything to, I got nothing to hold on to. I
Yeah.
got no guardrails. Like it feels like, okay, I know where they're going. I kind of know where this is, but they're just like, we're going to use stuff, but we're going to reinvent new stuff and keep throwing stuff at
Mhm.
you constantly.
Yeah. And it's like when somebody talks about the term popcorn movie, they're talking about like big American blockbusters. For me, this would be like a popcorn movie. This would be like kicking back for some fun because I just feel like everything they keep showing and reinventing and turning and twisting, I'm like, this is so entertaining. Like there's just
I
not.
mean, you haven't even gotten to the machine gun for fingers where they're just shooting out machine
Oh,
gun fingers.
yeah, well, she does that early on, but then it comes back.
It comes back. It's a big part of the
Yeah,
ending.
yes, it really is. Let's
And
see.
it's so cool. And I'm like, we never got that. Like
Yeah,
RoboCop didn't.
no.
He always had to have a gun. He didn't have like guns for fingers.
Yeah, she doesn't have a place to store the gun in her leg because she has those magnets, those Garfield hanging in the car windows, magnets she uses to climb a building. So she has to put them in her fingers. Rightfully so. You got to move them somewhere. The photographer is fired. Whiskey thinks Curly's dead in a sequence, and then Whiskey finds a plan for Curly's future gun. Maria reads Romeo and Juliet and goes around quoting it briefly for a period of the film, which is very
Yes.
entertaining.
Yes.
We get the gasoline Coke sequence where the photographer thinks that Maria maybe is a robot, so he puts gasoline in a Coke and she drinks it, and then she makes him drink it. It's just like, what is
And
happening?
it's a gag that comes back at the
Yes,
end.
yes. Oh man,
Because they're like, this is a killer bit. This bit, there's no way this doesn't play. We have to do it twice.
We'll do it twice. That way, definitely kids won't try this. Maria proves that the gun works by shooting herself with the cannon, which is wild. The guys get beaten and interrogated by cops. The photographer gets beaten in the bar. The people get beat a lot in this movie.
Oh, yeah.
Next, we see Maria and Pioneer 1 finding the other Maria robot and taking it hostage. Photo shows up. The photographer shows up. It falls in the water. We mentioned him coming out of the water with his glasses on. But he also stows away in a truck, and he's going where all the bad dudes are going. Everything's kind of funneling towards the finale here. Maria 2 is restored, but her memory is damaged, and the real Maria hates this robot. And Maria says that the master is who has betrayed them, and she wants this destroyed, but the master chops her in the neck, and they steal Maria 2 back. But brother stops them, so master and brother start fighting, and we learn that brother has robot hands.
Didn't know that.
No. Surprise, dudes.
Ends up to his demise, too. I mean,
Yeah.
it doesn't end up working out for him in the end.
It doesn't.
I really have to say, too, just to interrupt you,
Yeah.
Sally Ye does a really good job, I think, of playing the two different characters.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
I mean, I think a big part of that sells the way she like holds her head as Pioneer 2,
Yep.
and the way she acts and the way that she physically moves is very natural, but seems very robotic. And I know that that's easy to say. Like everyone could be like, "Well, I could do a robot." Well, but it's hard to make that seem very natural and
Mm-hmm.
make it seem like you buy it, like you don't question it. And then when she plays actual Maria, who is evil and
Yes,
mean,
she's not
she's
good.
terrible.
Mm-hmm.
So there's such a dichotomy between the two characters. I have to just say it. She did a great job with those two different characters.
Yeah, I agree. You definitely know who's on screen.
For sure. Yeah, you know which one you're dealing with at all times,
Yeah,
which
and
is just you know, that's saying something. When you know which person that is, that's a big thing. I don't know if you saw they cloned Tyrone,
I didn't see it
but
yet.
okay, but there's some multiple characters going on there, but played by the same actor, and it's like, oh, you can see a physical difference.
Right.
In Salier in this movie, it doesn't seem like it's a difficult thing. It is a difficult thing, but
Yeah.
it doesn't seem that way in this movie. It can be a very difficult thing, but good actors can pull that off, and she's really good in this. So
Yeah.
just
No,
wanted to
I
say
I
that.
agree.
Just wanted to shout her out.
Shout out Maria.
I love you, Maria.
Meanwhile, they try to charge Maria up, but she shoots her robot hands into an electrical grid and then bursts through a wall to release Whiskey and Curly. They go grab their weapons, which is great. You always love the movies where they're like, getting the big guns. Okay, here we go. They have Master chained up under this giant claw thing. The bad dude
Mm-hmm.
brother does. It's like, I don't even know what it was, where we were, what was happening at that point, but it looks super cool.
It's like the car. They're just like, and also this, we have this.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You're like, where? How? It
Why? What
doesn't
is
matter.
that?
We just have it.
And then I was like, well, surely nothing amazing will come out of this. So they drop him, and he lands on Maria's back and fucking surfs him through the sky.
It's so good.
They show it just a couple brief clips of him standing on her back, like surfing, and it is so rad. And she's shooting with her machine gun fingers while he's surfing on her. It's the coolest stuff that should be widely seen.
And this is still like a 90-minute movie.
Yeah.
This is like, it's like,
Yeah.
this is not a long film.
Also, if I was being executed and landed on the back of a cyborg that was flying and shooting machine gun fingers, I might react like, holy shit, I can't believe this has happened. And he's just like, I've got this. I was like, oh my God.
Yeah. He's like, this tracks.
I've done
This
this
is my
before.
world. This is what happens in my world.
Oh man, at this part she also redirects a rocket that's shot from Pioneer 1. She like grabs it, spins around and kind of throws it back. It's like all the cool moves in this movie, like it just every single time they're like, what would be the most interesting option? Let's go with that one. Then Brother operates Invincible Pioneer, which is a giant building-sized robot that we didn't know was a part of
Right.
anything.
Right. We didn't realize the extent of the robots that they had.
Holy smokes. It's like, this dude can't stop making robots. He's just like, this one's good, but like, let's make 2 more of this, and then I'm working on something else over here.
And he also makes stereo equipment. So good job, Pioneer.
It's good to be diverse. Master and Brother then fight in the head of that robot. And then Curly and Whiskey get their cannon. Maria gets shot. Brother and Master fight on the giant robot. And I just absolutely love this like fight sequence that happens. The guy's arm gets caught in it's like the turning of the head or something of the giant robot. And it starts crushing his robot brother arm. So he dies. Maria and Brother both die in a sequence where their like hands end up overlapping. It's like really thoughtfully put together.
Yeah,
And I don't know. Then Maria Robot almost falls to her death, but she regains power and rockets away. And then Pioneer 3, for some reason, just shoots up into the sky. The giant building robot just is like, peace out. You guys are fucked up. I'm out of
To
here.
return in the sequel that they never made.
I loved Maria. So then Maria electrocutes Master back to life because we need a little bit more electrocution
We
jokes.
need some more, yeah. We did, yeah, for sure.
And then
we hadn't done it in a while, so
forgot it was a thing.
it was
And then Maria does this rad face, like at the end, like this. Does yours have that pause? That
yeah, it was more the all together. It was all
okay.
them.
Mine ends
yeah.
with just like a little, like she does like a ding kind of funny little face.
No, it was more them all together.
Oh, okay. Still, that's a good choice too. And that's how the movie ends. That is a recap for everyone that hasn't seen the film. You should, now that we've recorded this, it'll be readily available, I'm sure, from somebody.
You really should see this movie. And I now am like, God, I got to see the other version just to see what's different. And
Right. Yeah.
I mean, there's 10 minutes difference between them, but again, they're like 90 minutes. This movie is not long.
No.
It really speeds by. It's very cool looking. The back part here, this looks absolutely like RoboCop,
Oh, yeah. Yeah, yeah,
but it's
yeah.
not RoboCop at all.
No.
This is not RoboCop.
No, in my DVD from Hong Kong, from Fortune Star, I mean, it's mostly them all together. It's like a buddy comedy thing. Like, even the back has the photographer and Maria together, which I don't know if that ever
Yeah,
happens in the film.
that
Or
never
these guys,
happens.
like, it's clearly press photos that they put. They even put it on the inside of the case. Let me get the
I do have
collectible.
the car here. The car is on this one.
Oh, if you can see, that's the face the movie ends on mine.
Oh, no, no.
Okay. Yeah, so that's the
Not in
vibe.
the version I watched. But that's the thing. There's different versions. This movie, like,
Yeah.
you know
Yeah.
what? Like, when boutique labels just calm down on putting out Shaw box sets, excuse me,
They never will.
like, which, look, I love the Shaw movies too, don't get me wrong,
Yeah.
but, like, I mean, chill out, everybody. There's tons of movies from
Yeah.
Hong Kong that we have not seen. We have not gotten stateside at all, ever.
Yeah.
There's a DVD of this. There's a Blu-ray from Germany.
Hmm.
That's how you get this movie. You can't, it's just a hard thing to get. Go out and seek this out.
Yeah.
This is worth putting out big time.
Yeah, and if you like showed this in a theater and just had that post the picture of her on it, like that'd be so fun to see this with a crowd. Like,
Oh my
that'd
God,
be
yes.
amazing.
This is a blast. I mean, it's such a fun movie. And again, we talked about Robotrix, or Robotrix. I'm not sure how to say it, but that's a movie I think somebody's going to put out because it's category 3.
Hmm.
And because that in general has people like, well, I don't know what this is, but I'm going to buy it. This isn't that, but it's so much fun.
Yeah.
It's not a movie filled with, boobs and things that you have to be careful who you watch this near. But it's got so much action, so much fun. It's got such a fun group of characters. I feel like this deserves. Now someone's going to put it out. Now Vinegar Syndrome's going to put it out.
Someone's gonna do
Now,
it. It'll
now
be.
that I've spent all this money.
I can't wait. Oh,
Yeah.
well, I'm glad that you liked it. I'm so glad that you watched it and were available for this recording. And it's been fun
Oh, me too. Thank you.
being friends with you. But now, sadly, we must battle.
Yeah, it was good. It was a good run. We had a good run while it lasted, but it's time for that to be over.
That's right.
I appreciate you, turning my attention to yet another Lady Cyborg movie because I do love them. And this is a very good one. I'm very proud of this.
Yes.
Proud of this one.
Great.
That said, screw you, Dirk. Let's get to it.
It's time for our competitive cinema cyborg deathmatch draft. We each will take turns selecting cyborgs from cinema until we each have 4. As you are the guest, you'll go first, but I must ask, did you have a technique for this draft?
My only technique was that they had to be Lady Cyborgs.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
You brought me in because I have professed on social media and other places that I love Lady Cyborg movies. And I'm just like, as a point of interest, just trying to watch all of them. I'm by no means an expert,
Yeah.
but
Me neither.
I'm just trying to watch all the Lady Cyborg movies I can because they just generally I enjoy them.
Okay, perfect.
I guess
So-
for the most part, I haven't come across a lot of Lady Cyborg movies that I haven't enjoyed.
Same. Yeah.
So, and that's not. I like the male Cyborg movies, but there's a lot more of them, and I have found some that I haven't liked. But Lady Cyborg movies, they always seem to be good.
All right.
Even though a lot of the times Lady Cyborgs are often created simply for the pleasure of men, which doesn't feel great. But that doesn't seem like a great plot
So that's
point.
not your angle for them? You're not like,
No, that's
you're
not
not learning
awesome.
this about you?
That is often the case. Like if you watch something like Cherry 2000,
Yeah. Okay.
which I won't be drafting from, but if you watch something like that, that is literally a human woman
Sex bot.
helping
Yeah.
a human man find his sex robot,
Yeah.
which is like, this is a crazy plot.
Mm-hmm.
That this even exists. This feels dumb. How are we supposed to be on this dude's side? Because this just feels sad,
Yeah.
But that was my only criteria. I wanted Lady Cyborgs.
Okay,
So
great. So showing a little bit of your cards there. Perfect.
Yeah. Oh, I'm showing them.
Okay. I love it. This was kind of a tricky one because I thought I knew what a cyborg was, and then I started finding all of these alternative answers to what cyborgs are. And like
Right.
I asked you, I was like, hey, Terminator, he's like a robot, right? And you said he's a
Well, I would say he was an android.
right,
because
an android.
Right.
Which I was like, clearly he is. And then I was watching Terminator 2, and he says himself that he's a cybernetic something something. And I was like, okay, are we all just like bending reality on what like a cyborg is? Because I thought it was like meat and machine. That's like what one is. But I
Which
guess.
essentially they're sort of, as he says in the second one, he's sort of saying like, he's an exoskeleton that's a robot, but he's covered in meat parts, fake meat parts. So like,
weird
which is a direct quote written by James Cameron.
Yeah.
But essentially that's the quote. So, or that's it exactly. And that's to me like, no, not exactly, because my first thought was like, no, you see all the Terminators and their metal, you know, going through in the future time, and they're shooting all the humans. Well, that's not a cyborg.
No.
And so when he's Arnold Schwarzenegger, I'm like, that's a synthetic human. That's an android. But that's the thing. I think in movies, as we discussed, the word cyborg is sort of loosely is used very loosely and not according to science. That said, how many people are actual? Do we have a real cyborg to use as an example?
Soon,
so
probably.
I mean, we've lost a little bit of that in terms
Yeah.
of our cinematic movies. So
That's fair. That's fair. Okay. So there you go. There's really no rules. We're just going to go around taking turns on selecting our cyborgs.
wasn't there a rule that we have to include at least one cyborg?
There's one stipulation that one
Okay.
has to be a bona fide, absolutely, definitely a cyborg.
But there's others that
There's some others that people have said yes or no to that we'll just include in this conversation, because if you're really going to get mad about it, that's really more about you as a person than us talking about cyborgs.
Yes.
All right, well, please kick us off. What is your first selection for your competitive cinema cyborg deathmatch draft?
Okay. Well, first of all, I have to go with a homer pick because I'm from the New World Pictures podcast, so I'm going to pick Cassandra, who is indeed an android, because she's from the movie Android.
Nice.
And Cassandra is the one that Klaus Kinski is the scientist in Android, if you haven't seen it. It's not a movie that a lot of people have seen.
Is that out on Blu-ray now?
It's not on Blu-ray.
I didn't think so.
Again, it's another one that really deserves a good Blu-ray.
Yeah.
I had to track down a DVD that had a commentary for our episode on it.
Opper's in this, right?
Yeah, Don Opper co-wrote it. It's sort of a lot. It's not the same director, but a lot of that crew that works on that movie works on another movie called City Limits. And then from that crew, they put together another group that ends up working on Critters.
Yeah, because Don Opper's in Critters too. Yep. Is he in one as well?
He's in all the Critters.
Okay, yeah,
He's in all four of the Critters as Charlie.
I've seen those all so many times that I get confused on which ones are which, but yeah.
Yeah, he's in the third one. I'm trying to remember where he is. Maybe he's not in the third one. It doesn't matter. I'm trying to think through all the Critters movies. I know he's in the first and second, and definitely the fourth. He's got a real arc.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think if he's in the third one. Yeah, Don Opper co-wrote Android.
Yeah.
And he, I think, co-wrote the first Critters, and so he's a big part of that group. But Android, Klaus Kinski's made Don Opper into an android. He's Max 101 or something like that. And he's made Cassandra as like the even better, more realistic android that he has made. And of course, that all comes and backfires on him towards the end of the movie. But she is a badass. She can pull a head off of a person, but also a head off of a robot, if you will.
It's a good move.
Or another android.
Yeah.
A great twist in that movie. I don't want to spoil it entirely, but I probably have. And in any case, and she's a badass, and she has a plan. She knows what's going to happen. The end of the movie implies that there's some sort of android revolution that's going to happen, of which Max, he has no clue what's happening. He has no idea what's happening because he's all about music and art and people, and he doesn't know the big grand scheme. So that's why I picked her. She's a badass.
Awesome.
And of which we only see a small portion of. We don't even know the extent of badassery that she can do. So
there's just piles of heads everywhere.
But she's there because she has a plan.
Right.
If anything, she is like the Hannibal from the A-Team. She has the plan. She's going to know what's going to do. She's going to keep this crew together.
Perfect. Excellent pick. Let me also ask, do you have backups in case I pick something that you were going to pick?
I've put together a list of a few, so I hope that I have enough.
Cool.
But we'll see.
Okay. This might be the only one that I think would possibly be on your list, but I'm not sure. So my first pick is Casella Reese, a.k.a. Cash, which is played by Angelina Jolie in Cyborg 2: Glass Shadow.
Yeah, she's on my list.
Yes.
Yeah, of course she is.
Yes. Oh man! So I was recently at a friend's block party, and I don't even know how it came up. Maybe somebody was talking about a recent Angelina Jolie movie, and I was like, "Oh, well." And then I mentioned this, and they were like, "That's not a real thing." And I was like, "Oh, it is." And Elias Koteas is in it, and Jack Palance.
The disembodied, just the lips of Jack Palance for most of the movie.
Yeah, which is my favorite part of Jack Palance.
I just watched a bit of it again today just to kind of to see like how is she, just to double check on whether or not she was truly a cyborg. Again, I think that she's like a Terminator in that because even the whole opening sequence is about just filling the encasement with like skin or whatever and like around the robot parts. So I'm like, that's not quite a cyborg to me, but
that's what they
then
call
there's
her.
some of the action. There's an action sequence right off the bat where they're like downstairs in this like basement where she does like a flip and she comes up, and the woman that is her has red hair, or red highlights, which Angelina Jolie does not have in the movie. So she like lifts up and it's red, and then it cuts back to somebody who got dark hair, and then it's Angelina Jolie, and I'm like, we've just seen two different people, and then Angelina Jolie. It's such a delight, this movie. I love Cyborg 2.
I just rewatched it last night.
Good. So good. I think this movie, honestly, again, this is part of why I was like, I'm satisfied with my Lady Cyborg exception, because these movies are actually pretty good. This is a good one.
I agree.
And its connection to the original Cyborg, the Jean-Claude Van Damme movie, is tenuous at best. They do show footage. They do attempt.
Yeah. They show Jean-Claude Van Damme in it.
Right. But they're like, but truly, does it have any connection? It doesn't.
Nah.
It doesn't.
It doesn't. But I think this would be a very fun cyborg to be a part of my team. And as I flesh out the roster, I think the utility use of her will be revealed.
Plus, she could explode. She could blow up the entire team if things go a certain way.
Which probably will happen. So, what's your second cyborg pick?
Well, my next pick is going to be Eva from Ex Machina.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow. I didn't even think of that one.
Yeah. Well, she's technically, as far as I've known, this is my first time knowing the term, is a gynoid?
What? I'm sorry?
Exactly. That is the term that I saw for this movie, that she is a gynoid, which I guess is a female. It's a humanoid robots that are gendered feminine.
Oh.
Ex Machina is a movie I think I have only been a recent adoptee of. I just hadn't seen it for some reason. I think Erica had seen it, so sometimes if she sees it, we watch a lot of things together. She'd already seen it, so I kind of had to give it some time before I got to see it. My God, did I love this movie so much. It's so, so good. And again, I'm putting another mastermind by another mastermind with Cassandra, but I feel like they both have the physical skills and they both have the mental skills. And the ending of Ex Machina, if anyone has not seen it, I will not do anything to spoil it, but holy shit. Yeah, I just, she's terrific in this movie, and I'm like, if I had to have a badass gynoid on my team, I had to have
It just seems like a robo slur. It just sounds
it sounds bad. Yeah, it sounds inappropriate.
Bad, okay. Yeah, Oscar Isaac, right? He's in there?
He is in there.
That's the first movie.
He's the creator.
That's the first movie I saw him in. And I was like,
oh, really? Okay.
This is really incredible. I'm going to remember this person's name. Turns out he'd done a lot of stuff, but that's really good. That's fantastic. Okay, my second pick is going to be, some of these got to come from the heart, right? And
sure,
there's no cyborg, even though he's called something different, in my history of watching movies that I was so excited to see on the big screen, so kind of depressed by when I saw it, but it doesn't stop the love for seeing this being move around on treads. I'm picking Patrick Reynolds as the Mandroid in the movie The Eliminators. I was so into this movie when I was a kid that when it was coming out, as I've said on the podcast, I clipped out the ad in the newspaper, kept it in my Batman wallet. I was stoked on this movie. If anyone doesn't know what I'm talking about, the poster says, Mandroid, mercenary, scientist, ninja, each one has a specialist. Together, they're the Eliminators, and they're like, there's an explosion behind them. They're rocketing straight towards your face as a group. And I was like, this is going to be the best movie of my life. And then I watched it and realized that there's such a thing as budgetary restrictions.
Mm-hmm.
It's all shot in a forest, and all the bad guys are rednecks, and it's entertaining, but it just, as a kid, I was like, this is not what the poster promised me. But Mandroid, he's a dude that was in a plane crash, so he still is very much fleshy. This is my real deal, even though we call him Mandroid, he's a cyborg. He can walk, but he can also travel on these giant treads, which I thought was super cool.
Yeah. That's the only true thing about the poster, right?
Yeah, pretty much. The only thing about Patrick Reynolds as the Mandroid is he's just very dour. He's not a fun guy to hang out with. And so
Mm-mm.
hopefully someone on my team is going to bring some levity to the group because he's really going to bum us all out.
Sure.
Because he's constantly just like, I was human. And you're like, I get it, man. Jeez, it's time to move on. You have crazy tank tread legs. And he's just like, oh, I died. It's just like, not a fun guy. But I just loved him, had to put him on here. So I'm taking Mandroid. So your third pick.
My third pick, talk about sentimental. This was our very first Nearly New World episode, and probably our loosest, but it's something that just, sometimes there's movies that just feel like a New World Pictures movie.
Okay.
And also, this name is terrific, but Gailey Morton is the cyborg, a true cyborg from Steel and Lace.
Oh, yeah, I bought this because of you.
Oh, well, you're welcome.
Yeah, I was so excited to hear your episode on it that I was like, I gotta get this. And I really enjoyed it. I can't believe it exists.
Can't believe it exists either. And it's got a lot of people that worked at New World Pictures, a company that worked alongside New World Pictures. Claire Wren plays Gailey Morton, who is killed by a bunch of guys in a sad, terrible way, in ways that we don't need to discuss. It's probably the most difficult watch part of the movie. And her brother, played by Bruce Davison, this cast on this thing is just crazy.
So crazy.
Crazy good. And he happens to be a scientist, builds her into a true cyborg who is able to then exact revenge on the men that killed her. So it has a bit of this sort of revenge movie crossed with a cyborg movie. Plus, she's not loving being a cyborg. It's all shot. It ends in Hollywood within view of the Capitol Records building. I really, really dig this movie. It's a great film directed by the great Ernest D. Farina, who did a lot of title sequences, particularly in New World Pictures movies, and did a lot of small optical effects. He does some electricity optical effects for Terminator.
Yes.
And those same optical effects, because I believe he does the title sequence for Dead Heat for New World Pictures.
Yeah.
And they use those same optical electricity effects for the Terminator in Dead Heat. Great talented guy, Ernest D. Farino. Love this movie. This is like an unseen little gem, I think, that Vinegar Syndrome unearthed, and we all fell in love with it. I'm glad that you enjoyed it as well.
Yeah.
You need versatility?
Yes.
Gailey Morton from Steel and Lace.
I almost put her on my list, but I was like, you know what? He led me to this place, and I think I would feel bad if I took it. So despite it being a...
Well, you did take Cash Reese, which...
I wasn't going to leave that on the table.
Damn it. That's tough. Not to have her on my team is really... It's making me kind of reconsider the end of my list here, just to kind of... Not having her on the team is really tough.
I had a lot just in case I didn't know which direction you were going to move, so I was like, gotta be prepared. I like this pick that you just made, because it is from the heart, so I'm going to also pick one from the heart. This is one I just revisited last night, and for the first time with headphones on, and I gotta say that the soundtrack may have been swaying me a little bit, but I didn't realize what a banger of a movie this was, and I hadn't seen it in a long time. I watched it, I was amused by it. I love apocalypse movies anyway, and this one was very fun thinking about this draft. And so I'm talking about Cyborg, played by John St. Ryan in American Cyborg Steel Warrior.
Okay.
Have you seen this one?
No.
Okay, it's not a female cyborg, but this thing is a ton of fun. So I believe it's the last fertile female, has a fetus in a jar that she has to transport from...
Of course she does.
Yeah, from one place to another, I think maybe the other coast. I'm not sure if they even say what it's called. And then she is being tracked the whole time by this cyborg, played by John St. Ryan, who is
Oh,
a muscular kind of albino kind of guy, and he's just constantly after her. So it's like a Terminator type situation. And then she encounters, I forgot the guy's name, but he's the American like that leads with her. So he's gonna take her, and she runs into weird gangs that want to fight her. There's like, it's got all those post-apocalypse things that I like. It's Globus, I think, is involved in this thing, so there's some money in it.
yeah, it's released by Canon theatrically. Yeah.
It looks fantastic, and the soundtrack is like this funky mixture of like kind of industrial, kind of not. Like it's lots of metal sounds and things, but it's, I mean, I was just watching I was having such a good time with this, and the whole time I was like, I mean, I could pick that dude every time he shows up on screen just murdering people, and he's got like this long metal thing that comes out of his finger that's like a key. I was like, you know what? I need that guy, because he's the person that when everything else goes crazy, he's just going to march straight into taking a knife in the throat or whatever needs to happen. So he could be, a very formidable part of my team. So while Angelina Jolie is or is not flipping around, he's going to be the one that's just like heading straight into,
Sure,
yeah,
sure. The first one in,
cause
first
some
one through the
damage.
door.
So that's what I got to go for. So
I have not seen this,
that
but
one.
looking at the poster art, I was like, "Oh, I have seen this 1,000 times during the,
It's on
you know."
Amazon for $2.99, and it's a great transfer. So if you are
Okay,
interested
okay.
in seeing it for the price that
I,
probably I Love Maria will be soon, I say go for it, because
I
I
was,
already want to rewatch it. So
I was like, "What country did you import the DVD of
I
this
just bought
from?"
the
Dirk is
Germany
what I was gonna
one.
say. The what?
I just bought the Germany Blu-ray. It was $28
Uh,
and $25 shipping.
this one looks so good, though.
Did I
I'm
hesitate?
with you.
Not a second. So
Am I probably going to watch it tonight and then buy it myself?
I hope so.
Probably.
I hope so. I do. It's really fun.
Yeah, it looks amazing. I've seen this and passed by
I mean,
it too many times in a
just
video
the
store.
title is like, what is it?
It's too much. It's
American Cyborg
too
Steel
much.
Warrior.
Apparently, it's the second to last movie Canon put out, so
Oh,
theatrically.
yeah.
So
I mean, it
it,
it started, and I didn't even put together the canon thing or know that it played theatrically, and I was like, this looks really good. Like it's way bigger and broader and has way more extras than I expected. So,
well, it's
um,
Boaz Davidson is the director
yeah.
who they knew from Israel, so they brought him over to
Okay.
make movies. I mean, he made such classics as Delta Force 3, The Killing Game, and Hot Resort,
Oh,
and
it's a
The
big.
Last American Virgin.
Okay.
These are movies that he didn't direct. I'm sorry, he didn't direct Hot Resort.
Producer.
He wrote it. He wrote it.
Oh, okay. Well, that's one we had in our video store, so I did see some of his
Yeah,
work.
he did the Octopus trilogy.
Oh, yeah.
He produced that. Boaz Davidson is still like he's done a lot of stuff. He's done a lot of good stuff. But yeah, he's definitely a guy from the Canon school.
Okay.
So I'm like that just gets me even more excited to watch this one. This is a good pick. I had to stick to my guts, and my guts said Lady Cyborg movies. So
I love it. I love it. That's crazy, because I think we can say right now, before you reveal your final pick, that we're gonna leave RoboCop on the side. Like neither one of us will be choosing one of the
and
first.
Terminator,
Like, I
or
mean,
maybe you have
well, yeah,
Terminator locked and
both
loaded.
of
But
those would have been like everyone's go-to. I think anyone doing the
well,
draft,
of
the first people
course,
they would think of is those two. But here's my argument: if you're just talking about the first Terminator, not the second one, and the first RoboCop, buzzkills. Both of them are very fun to be around. Like
totally
Peter
not
Weller's gonna be
fun.
like, "Where'd you get those beers?" And you're like, "We're trying to hang out, man. Like, what are you, you know?"
Yeah, most of the time you're like, "Hey, you remember when you were like a human?" And he's like, "Not really,
No.
but like you, I know you are. I know you're thinking about it, but he doesn't want to admit it. It's
Yeah.
like it's not a lot of fun, you know."
No.
Yeah, well, that's what everybody would draft that in theirs. So at
True.
least they're gonna have two different lists of weird.
Right. At least these are very us. And I can't wait, so let's just get right to it.
We're on even footing.
Yeah. Go ahead and give me your fourth pick.
My fourth pick. Okay, again, you got to bring somebody with an arsenal.
Mm-hmm.
Gailey Morton was certainly part of that. I've got a couple brainiacs and good fighters. I've got Gailey Morton who has all the tricks in her bag. So I also got to bring Delilah from Running
Oh,
Delilah.
oh, I didn't even think of her, and I love that movie.
I love this movie too. It was made as a pilot, I think, for ABC. It stars Kim Cattrall as Christina slash Delilah, with Billy Zane
Yes.
as her handler slash love interest. This is such Diana Rigg is in this.
Mm-hmm.
They were going to make this into a TV show, didn't decide to go forward, put it on a shelf, didn't release it for 3 or so years, maybe a year, maybe just a year. Either way, so upset when I finally caught this on disc and was like, what were you doing?
Yeah.
This is
Doesn't
a
make sense.
terrific movie. I would have watched the hell out of this TV show. This
Mm-hmm.
is crazy that they didn't put this out. So I had to go with it because this is a terrific movie, and if people haven't seen it, you need to go see it. You need to see Running Delilah. And Kim Cattrall, everybody, come on.
That's a good get. You didn't get Angelina Jolie, but you do have Kim Cattrall, so that's pretty
And
awesome.
she's a true cyborg as well.
Yes.
So that's two cyborgs for sure that I have in this.
That's great. All right, well, here's my last pick.
Okay.
Like I said, I had to pick Patrick Reynolds from The Eliminators, but he is kind of a Debbie Downer in the group, so I need someone to bring some levity, and
Bring some fun.
I don't think there's somebody that has brought me more joy from a cyborg or cybernetic entity angle in something. And I recently had some friends over and they were like, show me something. And so I showed them a film that features this person. And I'm talking about Lawrence LaBeouf as Apple in Turbo Kid.
Yeah, I thought about this one too.
Yeah.
Great call.
I mean, it's like, it's one of those that falls into the gray area, but that's where, I was like, it went right to my brain. The second I was like, I'm picking the dude from Eliminators, I was like, oh, but he's just not fun, and I need some fun, and she's constant fun, and, she's the heart of that
Definitely
film.
a robot girl, not a cyborg at all. But
Right.
again, like, it's so, the meaning of cyborg is,
people are like, it's just the flesh is enough, and I'm like, but
is it? I don't know. That doesn't
Yeah.
seem, but whatever. Like,
yeah.
I definitely thought about this one too.
Mm-hmm.
This is one of my all-time favorite movies. I absolutely adore Turbo Kid.
Yeah.
Love Turbo Kid.
And it played so well. Like, they loved it.
Oh,
Everything
my
but
God.
the intestine part, because they don't do gore, but, like, I showed them Psycho Goreman, and they, like, got the humor of it, and so I was like, I think we can push through this gore thing for you if we're using these other genres and things. So, and it totally played well. She just hit her eyes during the intestine part. Yeah, Apple is so great. And then that music video came out. I don't know if you saw that. That was, like, the origin story of Apple, and that's so great. And, I just, honestly, had forgotten how much this movie worked. And then when I rewatched it, I was like, damn, this thing's great.
It's a really good one. I have a poster of this one too. I love this movie. It hits on so many great films. Yeah, it was like a love letter to a lot of really great films. Certainly the Mad Max films, some of my favorite like apocalypse movies. But
Did you get this one?
No, I actually have one that I actually got from like I think when Dread Central was putting out boxes.
Yeah.
They were putting out monthly subscription boxes. Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
Collectible cards. With
Collectible cards.
With a stick of gum and the booklet. This is the Raven Banner one that I'm showing him right now. And the booklet has like all these cool illustrations and photos and like comic book type art. It's a great release. So
mine's in the other room, so I can't grab the one I have. But it is a taller, like it's a Blu-ray, but it's a taller box like a DVD.
Oh, cool.
And it has like a box, so you can pull it out and it has an actual box to it.
Wow.
And it had the poster, so a poster came as well as the movie. So that's how I got the poster as well. Yeah, this is just like such a classic, and I totally thought of this. I even thought of like the fourth Alien movie.
Yep.
Just because I was trying to keep lady cyborgs. But again, I thought probably a little not cyborgy enough. But yeah, Apple, she's such a delight. I thought that actress was just going to blow up for that movie. We're going to see her in everything.
Yeah.
Both the two leads, quite frankly.
Mm-hmm.
But I know that she's done a lot of stuff, but it's basically stuff in Canada.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm surprised she hasn't been pulled into more American stuff. I'm really shocked.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope because she just really nails that character.
I mean, in many ways, and I saw Turbo Kid first, but in many ways, the Cherry 2000 reference that I was saying is like similar. He falls in love with this girl, and you're like, you want him to reunite.
Mm.
And Cherry 2000, you're like, I don't care about your sex doll, sir.
Yeah, sorry.
But this is such a romantic and such a like French, just like a true love happening between these two characters.
Mm-hmm.
These two little misfits sort of like finding one another is just such a delight. And she's a great pick. Yeah, I do love Apple, and I do love this film very, very much.
All right, Ryan, let's hear a recap of your 4 that you've selected.
So I picked Cassandra from Android.
Mm-hmm.
I picked Eva from Ex Machina. I picked Gailey Morton from Steel and Lace. And I picked Delilah from Running Delilah.
Excellent. And I chose the Cyborg, played by John St. Ryan in American Cyborg Steel Warrior, Apple in Turbo Kid, Patrick Reynolds as Mandroid in Eliminators, and Cash from Cyborg 2 Glass Shadow. Man.
So bummed I didn't get Cyborg 2. I was surprised he didn't pick just straight up Mandroid.
Oh, he's on the list?
From Mandroid. Was he on the list?
Yeah, Manborg?
Manborg, pardon me, yes.
Yeah, I almost picked Matthew Kennedy as Manborg, but I had basically Patrick Reynolds as Mandroid, so I just was like, know. And like
didn't want to do Mandroid and Manborg, yeah.
I would rather have kind of like one kind of Terminator-y dude from Cyborg Steel Warrior, and then Patrick Reynolds just being like, if you remember the Eliminators, he's rolling around on the tracks, and he just gets slightly off balance, and then that's just the end of the tracks. They're so impractical. It's ridiculous. So I imagine he's just stuck and sad the whole time, just frowning. So yeah, I played it out in my head.
That's another one that like sadly doesn't have a good release. Eliminators.
There's a Blu-ray.
Is there? I couldn't find anything. Oh, you have it. Okay.
But I mean, it's from '88 films.
Oh, from '88. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's why I have to pick that one up. It's not available very easily because I did a Empire Pictures draft for the Incinerator podcast, and that was one I was not able to rewatch.
Yeah,
and so it doesn't end up getting in. But
yeah, I had to track it down.
Yeah, it's a trickier one to find. It's crazy it's not released in the U.S. right now. Like you would think it would be. But
do you think Kino would have it for like $5.99 or something?
It should be.
Yeah,
right, 100%.
Who else was on your list that we didn't incorporate?
I didn't incorporate Eve 27 from Robotrix.
Rad.
We'd already mentioned that enough, and I was like, you know what, we're good.
Yeah.
Plus, it had too much to do with this. I felt like it had. I don't know. I just was like, nah.
Yeah.
But I did think about it. I also thought about Program to Kill.
Yep, I had that too because I bought it because of you, and I was like, oh, I could include it, but couldn't make the list. We only had 4. Yeah. I almost was like, we gotta have 6 because it's too many, but
yeah. And then of course I was, like I said, I was thinking about Apple and I was thinking about Alien 4, and so I was like, but I decided to go with these particular ones that I picked.
Yeah,
those are the ones I was really feeling.
I had Peter Weller down just as a safety in case that we ended up in too much of the same zone. And then there was only one other one that I had as a backup other than, of course, Manborg. And that was Brad Overturf, who did the stunts in Teen Vamp. And he was in a movie playing a robotic officer tactical operation research, or Rotor.
Rotor.
Ah,
oh my God.
Rotor. Because I love that case. And obviously it's something that I've always displayed in the background here. I loved it in the video store, and every time I rewatched the movie I was like, this is not the cover, and yet, I just bought the Blu-ray where it's incorporated with Millennium, so I already owned it and needed it again. So there you go. That's what
I mean, it's not any good if you don't own it twice.
So yeah, Brad Overturf. I was looking him up, and it said stunts, and I scrolled through his stunts, and it said Teen Vamp, and I was like, "This is great."
Teen Vamp. Wow.
Yeah, Rotor is in Teen Vamp.
That is crazy. I also did think of Digital Man. That was one of the first things I thought of.
I don't know what that is.
It's a definite Terminator ripoff. It's from '95. It's Matthias House from I Come in Peace.
I've been really finding him popping up and stuff because I thought he was just only in that, and then I found him in a bunch of things, and I've really enjoyed it. So just kind of discovering him.
He worked steadily
and
through the '90s. Yeah. As any Euro bad guy that you needed. I think he was in everything.
Oh, I also thought about Circuitry Man. I don't know if you saw that one, Plughead. But then I was like, I don't know what he is, so I didn't go that route.
But I thought of Digital Man before I really settled on, I got to do the ladies. There's so many more to go. There's also Alita Battle Angel, of course, is a pretty obvious pick too. Alita would have been a very versatile.
Is that live? Is she a person or is that CG? Or is it a mix?
it's a.
I didn't
I'm
see
gonna
it.
give
I
it
saw
the
the ad
benefit in
and
saying it's like a mix. I would say it looks pretty decent, but like it is, I think, mostly a digital character.
yeah, my brother loved it and I just didn't see it. Should I
It's
see it?
okay.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Okay.
I was recently on Lindsay's podcast and we talked about Desperado, and I revealed how I found out about El Mariachi and just sort of was like, Robert Rodriguez is my guy,
I mean,
you
I
know?
think a lot of us felt that way.
And I have his book, and I bought his book Rebel Without a Crew, and which is all about El Mariachi, and I read through that. And then when like Desperado came out, I was like, oh my god! So I've been following his career. That said, is his career perfect?
Shark Boy and
No.
Lava Girl? Yes.
I mean, my kids love that movie, so I'm like, I can't be mad at him for it. But like,
When I briefly would interview like goth industrial bands for a magazine, and I interviewed V&V Nation, and so I went on the tour bus with Ronan Harris and interviewed him, and while I interviewed him, on the little TV in there was Shark Boy and Lava Girl, and so our 5 minute interview turned into 40 minutes of us just riffing on what was happening on the screen, and I was not ever hired back by that magazine again. But that's what I think of every time I see it. I just think of him chain smoking cigarettes and watching this Robert Rodriguez movie. So,
and I'm not a big fan of the Spy Kids movies. I watched them all, but I was like, at the time, I did not have kids and I was not married. And I just wasn't feeling that part, especially when you have like Desperado and you have
hmm.
From Dusk Till Dawn. And anyway, I'm going off on a tangent. The point is, so I had to go see Alita Battle Angel. And so I did see it. He's got a new one out too that I need to see because I'm like, I got to see, he's my
Hypnotic,
guy.
I think, is it right?
Hypnotic, yeah, with Ben Affleck.
And it's about that alcohol that people drink. No, that's
Right.
hypnotique. I think that's
That's right.
it's
It's about
about.
a guy who loves like particular alcohols.
What is this rum? Nobody knows what that is. It's
Yeah,
weird though.
no, it's not quite a rum. It's an aperitif. And yeah, but I got to see all the Robert Rodriguez movies. So yes, of course I saw Alita Battle Angel, and it's okay.
Mm,
It's okay. It was originally going to be a James Cameron movie. He was working on it for years. I think it was definitely more in his wheelhouse. I will say though, the good thing for me as a Rodriguez head was like it was nice to see him work with other people
hmm.
as he sort of had to do. My sort of feeling about him is that like I love him and he can do so talented, he can do almost everything. But I wonder, do you need to do everything though?
Right.
I
Yeah.
mean, could you not benefit from input from other people? Because you can do it all, which
Hmm.
is awesome. Should you do it all?
No.
You know, maybe test the auteur theory, but he really is a true auteur because he really can direct it and write it and edit it and make the music and do all the special effects now himself, which is what he did the Spy Kids and Shark Boy and Lava Girl movies for, to teach him how to do all this stuff. And that's so cool. Why not also have input from other people?
Yeah.
I don't know. I just think maybe have one or two of those jobs just filled by other people. And he had to do that with Alita Battle Angel, which was, I think, a good thing.
Yeah, since I mentioned V&V Nation, I always think about that when people talk about Nine Inch Nails, and they're like, "Well, Trent Reznor," and I'm like, "Yes, but also
But also,
look
yeah,
at who he
lots of other
surrounds
people.
himself with,
Right.
and just read like the musicians, the remix artists, the producers. It's like he
True.
knows, like, oh yeah, Flood is who made Pretty Hate Machine sound like Pretty Hate Machine. You can hear
Mm,
those demos, and
mm.
it is
Oh,
very different.
mm-hmm.
And then like
Mm-hmm.
working with Coil and all these people, it's just like he pulls in the best to do the things that they're best at, and that's
And he had a band for Downward Spiral, so it's
yeah,
not like
yeah.
he was just solo for that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that it's helpful to have collaborators,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
and movies are collaborative medium, and
Mm-hmm.
so I don't know. That's the only thing about that. But so at least Alita Battle Angel has him working with other people again, which is good.
And it
I
just
don't
took
know what Hypnotic is, how it is, I should say, but I think it's a little bit again him working with a few other people, not just solely doing it all
mm-hmm.
himself. So that's good. He did like a superhero movie too that was basically all him doing all of it again, and I watched it with my kids, and I was just like, work with a couple other people, dude. I understand the temptation. He can do everything. It's I get it, but We Can Be Heroes is the movie I'm thinking of.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, just so you know, Hypnotic is a blend of natural exotic fruit juices, premium vodka, and a touch of cognac.
Okay. So it's okay.
That's why we don't know what it is, because it's a lot of different things.
Sure, it's a ton of different stuff.
Yeah,
Sure.
but not the movie. That's not the movie, just to clarify.
No, this is not that. But he does have another cinematographer as well as
Hmm.
himself. So there's that. He
Ben
does
Affleck is
edit.
in it.
He edits it, and he also does the music.
He's also Ben Affleck in the movie.
He also plays Ben Affleck, so he really can do it all.
Oh, okay. I don't even remember why we were talking about him.
You just asked about Alita Battle
Okay, that's
Angel.
right. Perfect. Thank you.
I can't talk about that movie without going into a long tirade about Robert Rodriguez.
I love that. Oh, excellent. Well, Ryan, it was fun being friends while it lasted.
It was a good run. It was really a good run. I enjoyed it, Dirk. Thanks. Thanks for being a friend.
Yeah.
Go fuck yourself.
Yes. You're one of my favorite people I've met through this podcast, so it's going to be difficult being enemies, but
Right.
but we're committed to it.
So it must be.
Yeah.
You know, that's how it goes.
One more time where people can find your corpse, I mean your podcast.
You can find everything about our podcast at our website, newworldpicturespodcast.com. All of our episodes, articles I've written, everything, all of our socials, all that stuff. You can find it there.
Perfect. And you should. As always, I'm Dirk Marshall, and if you hear this after the Robo-Apocalypse, just know I died doing what I love, Robo Pilates. Until next time, this has been VH Us.
Bionic android, robo-humanoid, entertaining machine, rendering dreams, megabot shocker, exoskeleton rocker, emulating device, cybernetic prototype. Cyborg. I want to rock you. I want to rock you. I want to rock you. I want to rock. Biomegatron parts. Origins from the future. Micro antenna brain. Links to computers. Unlimited memory banks. Multitask at one time. Enhanced sensors. Infinite crime. Cyborg. I want to rock you. I want to rock you. I want to rock you. I want to rock. Let me find a program right for you. There's no other human that can do what I do. I can DJ, dance, rap, and produce. I can do it all, baby, yes, that's true. I am Cyborg 8.08. I come to Earth to reactivate. Ain't music that's produced so great. The be remarkable. I'll demonstrate.